Welcome to Nonprofit Expert, presented by Donor Perfect.
To Nonprofit Expert, a podcast sponsored by Donor Perfect. My name is Julia. I'm so excited to be here and joined by Erica Waasdoorp, someone who is very well known in the sector, especially when it comes to monthly giving, which is what we're going to tackle today. I can't wait to hear all the practical advice you have for us, Erica. Thank you so much for being here.
Really excited to be here, Julia.
Great. Well, we're going to get started getting to know you a little bit. Why don't you share a little bit of your story when it comes to nonprofits and why you're so passionate about monthly giving?
Yeah, so I've been in the nonprofit world for more than 30 years now, in the direct response world for 40 years. I'm old. And I love monthly giving because I've personally experienced growing a program for an international animal welfare organization and really saw the power of monthly giving. So it was an organization that had basically brought like monthly giving to the United States from Canada. And they expanded into a number of different countries. And I'm originally from the Netherlands. I've been here 30 years, and I was comfortable giving from my bank account. I mean, that was a thing in Europe well before it became a thing here. So again, I saw the power of these small recurring donors. And, I started talking, I started writing, and here you are a couple of years later. It's finally catching on in this country. So I'm really excited about it.
That's so good. Just that, setting the stage that you saw the impact of giving in this way personally is going to lead to such a great conversation. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I'm so excited that you're here. Well, let's jump right in and talk a little bit more practically. I think something that nonprofits can sometimes struggle with is goal setting. So when setting up a new program like monthly giving, say some of our listeners have never done monthly giving, or maybe some of our listeners have inherited a monthly giving program, step one maybe should be figuring out where they want to end up. The same way when you plan a trip and buy a plane ticket, you have to know where you're going. So knowing where you're headed with monthly giving and setting goals, do you have any advice on how someone should set goals or what the industry trends are when it comes to monthly giving? What should our listeners expect as they set up their programs?
Yeah, that's a great question, Julia. So I think the first step is really taking a look at where are you now? Right. So before you worry about like setting goals, it's like, okay, well, let's take a look and say, how many recurring donors do you have in your donor base? And what's their value? What's their annualized value? So that's like, I would say step one. And then take a look and saying, how many donors do you have? How many active donors, 0 to 24 months typically? How does that compare with the number of recurring donors that you have? If we then look at like industry wide, I was actually talking to somebody earlier today, and we looked at like statistics, and if you're able to convert about 15% of your donors to make recurring gifts, that is a good goal to strive for. Having said that, if you really want to grow even more, I mean, there are organizations out there that have been doing this for a while because they too saw the power early on. And some of them are seeing 40, 50, 60% of their donors giving monthly. But 15%, so 15% is a good goal to strive for, because that's what we're seeing for those organizations that have a focus on it. So that's it. That's a key. Yeah. 15%.
15%. That's a good place to aim for. Well, let's talk a little bit about people who maybe haven't even started a monthly giving program. Maybe they're either new to fundraising or they're at a new organization, or they just haven't stepped their foot into the monthly giving fundraising pool. What would be the first 1, 2, 3 steps for someone to start a monthly giving program from nothing?
Yeah, so it's interesting. And I have to put a little shout out to Donor Perfect here, because you guys were actually one of the I would say pioneers when it came to donor-based CRMs that were jumping on the recurring giving bandwagon, in 2014, 2015, is virtually every single donor base, every single payment processor now has recurring giving options on their online donation forms. So that's like the first step, is say, take a look at your online donation form and make sure that your recurring giving option is there and activated. So that's a key. So everybody has the tools. Everybody has a website. Everybody has an online donation form. So, because otherwise you really can't raise any money, right? So pretty much everybody has that. 99.9% of organizations have that. So take a look and say, okay, these are my online donation form. I have the recurring giving option included, and I look at the thank you messaging that goes along with that. So make sure that that is in place. So when a donor comes, sort of like organically, if they go to your website and they find your donation form and they say, oh, I'm not ready to make a one-time gift, but I can be comfortable making a smaller monthly gift, then that option is on your online donation form. So that's the thing. Then the second thing is, if your system allows this, if you can do this, and I know with Donor Perfect you can do that, is create what I call like a monthly only online donation form, because you're going to then start directing people to go there. So when you ask somebody to make a monthly gift, you don't want them at that point confuse them with one-time gift. So it's okay if you have a one-time gift option at the make this a recurring gift. That's perfectly fine, and you will find some donors that are giving monthly organically. But then if you really want to start promoting it, you need to have the make it very, very clear that the donor wants to give monthly. So having a special online donation form with monthly only is key. So that's like step 2. Again, step 3 is really test it out. Make sure that, again, everything is working, that everything, integrates with your donor base, that the thank you messaging is exactly what you wanted to say. And that's, so you really want to get all of that prep before you start promoting it.
That's really helpful. I love step 3, testing it out. There have been many times where I would try to set up an email that had the wrong fields in it, things like that. So being sure to test out the form is really important. And you shared, these 3 steps are offering the opportunity for people to give. You need to tell people that this is an option. So once those really practical things are set up, what should our listeners do to get the word out about this program?
Yeah, so again, if you have that form, I mean, it can be as easy as adding a button. I mean, you'll hear me talk a lot about buttons, because sometimes it is really that easy, but you got to make it really, really clear for the donor to find, right? So add a button you could add a button to your homepage. It could say donate now and give monthly, right? So, and that give monthly then goes to that monthly only payment online donation form. So a button there, put it in your email newsletter, a button about giving monthly, put it in your emails, so you really have to start talking about it in your online messaging, and then you can also start talking about it in your offline messaging, in your direct mail. So that's like the second step, but you got to make sure that everything's ready to go. And then you got to drive people there. I mean, people are not going to decide all of a sudden like, yeah, today is a good day, I'm going to make a monthly gift. No, you need to, tell them the need, right? Tell them that you need them, tell them that you need help, and then donors are going to say, okay, yeah, and guess what? I can make a difference with a small amount. So again, the fact that then the donor goes to your page and says, donate now, a big gift, or can I break it up in smaller chunks? And some people will say, yeah, I want help, but I can only do it in smaller increments. And other people are going to say, yeah, I can do it, and I can make a big gift right now. So donors are different, right? So that's what you're going after, that donor that wants to help, but is just not able to write the big check yet, is not able to make the big gift today.
That is applicable for donors of different age groups, like maybe millennials are still, or Gen Z are becoming givers and they need a lower threshold to start giving, which makes a lot of sense. I also love what you said, put it in your direct mail, put it in your email, put it on your website, put it on your social media. If we're not telling people that this is an option, how would they know? So great points on getting the word out and the ability to say it in multiple ways. When I was a fundraiser, we had people who monthly would send in a check, and we communicated with them through direct mail. I think sometimes we think monthly givers are all online givers. That's not necessarily true. So using all of these lines of communication is really helpful.
Yeah, and I think, those organizations that are, again, as you start seeing the power of it, and as you starting to grow your program, then they're like, oh, wow, you know what? Let's do like a special sustainer recurring giving drive, right? So like every February, they do a mailing, and it could be a postcard, right? And they do an email, and they do like some social media, maybe even a phone call, right? So they can, and then, it's all focused on, bringing in XYZ number of new recurring donors. So those what we call like multi-channel, right? Those really work the best, because they're like, oh yeah, I saw that in the mail, and yes, I see it online, and so everything aims at growing that number of monthly donors at that point. So, and you can do 2 sustainers a month. I'm sorry, 2 sustainer drives a year. You can do 4. I mean, you can do something monthly. It all depends on how you want to grow.
I love that. I love the idea of using it as a campaign. We talk about these capital campaigns to build a building, or we talk about Giving Tuesday, or end of year campaigns, or, back to school campaigns, or whatever. What about a monthly giving campaign? Why don't we run those so much? So that's a great idea, and a great way either to start or grow, which is another question I have for you. So when I started at my organization, they had been around for almost 20 years by the time I was there, and they had a monthly giving program that I inherited. So what could I have done to grow that program, or to level up that program, or encourage those givers to be more involved?
Yeah. So again, well, it's two different questions, right? So in other words, like if you look at refreshing your program, again, take a look and saying, well, how long have they been giving? What caused them to give to begin with, right? What caused them to start making a monthly gift? And then saying, okay, well, what are some of the opportunities that I can add into my communication schedule, that I can offer this more often, especially to, monthly donors tend to be smaller donors, right? So you may want to add a special thank you letter. So you send a thank you letter after they make a gift, and then, say Giving Tuesday, they make a gift, and you send them a thank you letter. And then a month later, you send them a special invitation to become a monthly donor, right? So it's not a huge number of pieces that you have to send out, but it's like one more opportunity to that's special, that's at a different time than donors normally might be used to getting something from you. That is like, oh, okay, yeah, like, hey, I'm going to be part of a special community, and I want to do this because I really care about this organization. But monthly tends to be the best way I wanna give, right? So yeah, there's lots of different ways, that you can refresh things. if you feel that the program has gone a little stale, but a lot of times we tend to, again, fundraisers tend to be their own worst enemies, right? So we get tired of something, but the donors, like after 5 times, they're finally starting to see what you want to tell them, right? So don't give up too soon. Don't think that something's stale too soon. But take a look and say, okay, what can I do to add opportunities that may not have been there 10 years ago, right? So because that's the other piece. There's so much changing right now that, like I think there's so many opportunities that even big organizations are not necessarily even taking. So
Thinking about maybe my program has become stale. For me, it was sometimes difficult to get new people into my program. We had X amount of monthly givers and they were sustaining a certain part of our budget, and that's great. But then what advice would you give for people who are looking to involve some new monthly donors? Where do you find new monthly donors? How do you convince them to be part of your monthly giving program? What, for lack of a better term, marketing do you offer when it comes to your monthly giving program? What might that look like?
yeah, so again, I mean, obviously, like you need to be sure that your overall program, that you're bringing in new fresh blood, right? That you're bringing in new donors or maybe new volunteers, or what if some of the new groups of people that might get involved with your organization, and then could you do a welcome email? And as part of that welcome email, make it a series of 2 or 3 where the second or third is, hey, what would be the best way to support, this organization, our mission, blah, 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 and be specific, consider a monthly gift. And then again, you can make it really easy. You can click right through to the donation page, right? So welcome emails are great. Special invitations are great, especially if you've never done that before. But postcards are great. Again, a special drive. Like I was talking to an organization last year, and every year they do a Valentine's Day campaign. And it's a postcard that they send out to some of their smaller donors. And then it's an email series, 3 or 4 emails that are all focused on Valentine's Day, and you have a secret admirer, and then there's a goal built in, right? So they're saying, look, we're looking for 50 new monthly donors, and if we reach that goal, then we're going to receive a match. So kind of like a lot of the principles that maybe you're approaching Giving Tuesday with, you can use that for your monthly giving campaigns as well. Like matches are great, right? I worked with an organization and they had like a lot of volunteers, and they had a board member that says, you know what, I'm going to put up a match, a $5,000 match. And we did like an email campaign. It was like 2 emails. And we reached out to the volunteers because they didn't have a lot of like donors yet. And the volunteers were great, interested in helping. And they wanted to generate like 25 new monthly donors with this $5,000 match. And they reached like 38 new monthly donors with this campaign from their volunteers. So again, it's like sometimes we fundraisers tend to assume things, right? So, and we can't assume. We have to give the donor the opportunity. The worst thing they can do is, no, not right now, right? So, and there's actually like research out there that, especially with like organizations that they used to do a lot of phone call campaigns where the donor might say no on the phone, no, I'm not ready to make a monthly gift. But then when you sent them a letter afterwards, they had thought about it, and then they decided to become a monthly donor in the mail. And so again, that combination of like mail and phone and other opportunities. So just because a donor says not right now doesn't mean they're going to say no, not ever, right? So again, we tend to assume things. Well, the donor probably didn't want to do it. Okay, well then give them another opportunity, right? some to your marketing point, it's like sometimes we need to see a couple of different things and a couple of different things more often. We tend to give up too soon. Oh, well, it didn't work. And, it's like, okay, well, how many people did you send it to? Okay, what did you get? Oh, well, I had a couple of people click. Okay, all right. So, well, maybe you need to give them another opportunity to click again. So,
Well, and something you mentioned that I'd love to push in on a little bit more, the example of the organization using their volunteers to kind of connect to their networks and figure out who may want to give. What about the idea of advocates, people who maybe already are monthly giving programs, having them use their voice? Is there any avenue for that? Is that appropriate?
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Again, I mean, I normally say like, like, especially for those organizations that are just starting out, that they may have a few monthly donors and, reach out and ask them, why are they giving monthly? And then get their testimonial. And then you can reach out to other people and say, Erica is like, she gives monthly because whatever it is. And then you can put that on the website. You can put that on a special landing page. You can put it in an email. You can put it in a letter, So, and again, donors love hearing from other donors like, oh, okay. Other, donors have already considered a monthly gift of X, right? So those nudges, that social proof, I mean, it does work. So kind of use some of those opportunities. Again, I was working with an organization and they had 15 monthly donors that had come to them organically. And they said, okay, we want to grow. We want to generate like 100 monthly donors this year. And so the first thing they did was reach out, sent a note, really nice handwritten note to their monthly donors saying, thank you so much. Would you like to share why you're giving monthly? And they put in a little 3x5 card and a reply envelope, and they got the most amazing testimonials back. So, so that's like, and again, if you're engaging your monthly donors, that's great because they want to be part of that community. They want you to succeed as a nonprofit, right? So, and they see the power of giving monthly themselves. So,
yeah, that group in itself is so valuable. Like, we've called them sustainers. These are people who are long-term committed to your organization and who care about what your mission is. And so using them to help other people care, I think is wonderful. Another question I have about people who are already part of a monthly giving program, which is another thing as a fundraiser that I had a hard time with. Do you have any recommendations on upgrading current monthly givers? How do you have that conversation? Somebody's been giving $15 for 3 years. Maybe they could give $20. And how do I start that conversation?
Yeah. Yeah. So again, you don't want to upgrade somebody too soon, right? So you want to wait at least 6 months, like 6 to 9 months usually is sort of the sweet spot. But yeah, you can explain how things have gotten more expensive or how you need to help more people or more animals, right? And that costs money. So then say you're giving monthly, we really, really appreciate it. But would you consider a small increase? And then, let donors choose what their increased amount is. And some donors will say, yeah, I'll go for $5 more. Some will even double what they're giving, right? So again, it's like you have to give them the opportunity to consider an upgrade, right? And again, if you've stewarded them right during the time that they've been giving, in your case, you said, well, they've been giving monthly for 3 years. Have they received updates on how their gifts are making a difference, right? Through email newsletters or through print newsletters, right? So the more you can talk about how their gifts are making a difference for you and how that they feel really part of your organization, right? They feel committed. I think that's the key point. So everything that you do with monthly giving, it's sort of like it all goes hand in hand, right? So you bring them in, you got to give them opportunities to make a monthly gift, then you got to say thank you in the right way. And then you got to steward them on an ongoing basis by telling stories of how their gifts are making a difference, and how important they are to your organization. And in most organizations, because again, I'm all for, like, if you've heard me speak, it's all for, like, keep it simple, right? So, so again, don't overpromise things, right? So you're like, I always say, well, like, if you start giving monthly, tell them two things. One is they will receive updates on how their gifts are making a difference. You don't have to say how often that is and what that looks like. So don't get yourself hung up on, like, oh man, I promised that they were going to get 2 newsletters a year or whatever, and then you can't do it, right? So just say you get updates on how your gifts are making a difference, right? And then, but you don't need to, but we're not going to send you a thank you letter every month. We will send you an overview of all of your giving every January. So you have that for tax purposes, right? So those are really the two promises I recommend that you make that will help make your life as a fundraiser easier. And you still steward them in the right way, right? So that way, again, donors know exactly what to expect. They know they shouldn't have to look at, wait for a monthly thank you letter in the mail, because that's a waste of a stamp, right? But you're better off, like, giving them some other updates during the year on how their gifts are making a difference.
That's a great idea. I think for me, I had a really hard time with figuring out stewardship of monthly donors. My executive director and I went back and forth sometimes because we were sending a thank you letter to monthly givers every month. Somebody who's giving $10 a month was getting a monthly giving thank you letter every month, but somebody who gave a $10,000 gift in December got one thank you letter. So I had a hard time reconciling what the best way was to communicate. And you touched a little bit on this broad communication. Is there anything special that we should do to communicate with monthly givers?
Well, so again, like, 2 points, like, you want it to be doable, and fundraisers are so busy, right? We have so much going on, right? And a lot of organizations have small shops, they don't have a lot of staff, right? So again, maybe it's like one afternoon you sit down in your office and you're saying, okay, let me see, what are all of the different things that I'm sending to donors, regardless of the level of gift, right? What are we sending out? You might have a print newsletter. You might have a couple of appeals a year, right? You might even have something with a little tchotchke or a sticker, or something that you say, oh well, we're doing this for an event or whatever, right? And then say, okay, well, could we use some of these things to make the monthly donor feel special? How hard would it be to say, oh my God, I got this box of stickers sitting here, and can't we just, like, when we send a thank you letter, when the monthly donor first comes on board, I'm throwing in a sticker, right? Or, hey, there's a special occasion day, or, that fits your organization. Maybe, say it's a health organization, right? And you say, oh, I got this little recipe card or something healthy, whatever. Well, maybe there's something that you can put in, something else that you're sending out to them, and you pop in a recipe card. Sometimes it can be as little as, like, oh man, look at this. I got this beautiful drawing from this kid that we're helping, right? I'm scanning it in, I'm popping it in an email, and I'm sending it to my monthly donors as well as everybody else, right? So a lot of things that you're sending to your other donors, just make a tiny version of it for your monthly donors, right? So you can have a version as simple as, like, okay, well, you want to make sure that you have them as a separate email segment or group or tag or however you call it in your Constant Contact or MailChimp or whatever else program you have. And then say, thank you so much for your ongoing monthly support. Let me share this wonderful story, or let me share this beautiful picture that we just got. Thank you, just as simple as that, right? So by that little tiny variation, you've just made it special for the monthly donor, and everybody else gets it as well, right? So, but they don't get that monthly reference, obviously, right? So
That sounds like a really great way to save the fundraisers time, to save the monthly givers time. I love that.
I mean, I know a lot of nonprofits have gone back to events, right? Some are virtual, some are a combination, right? Hybrid. Invite your monthly donors to your events. I mean, it's like in a lot of cases, it's not that many per se. It's a couple more invitations, and just by inviting them makes them feel special. They don't necessarily have to come, but you can make them feel special. So there's a lot of simple things I think you can do. Just don't overthink it. But oh man, if there's something comes across your desk and like, wow, that would be wonderful. I mean, I think all of our donors would like to see this, but especially our monthly donors, right? So there's probably stuff that are being done in your organization that you could use. I mean, again, a lot of times people are like, wow, yeah, I just put this thank you video on social media. And it's like, okay, well, how about those donors that are not on social media? Send it in an email, so it's okay to repurpose as well, right?
Yeah, and this goes back to what we were saying, these people are deciding monthly or seeing funds leave their bank account monthly. They care about your organization. So they care about the little things like a drawing by a kid just as much as you care about your organization and the little things like a drawing by a kid. So I love that idea of taking these little things that come across your desk and saying, hey, you care about our organization and here's a victory from today and we want to let you know. Okay, so I want to return to one thing that we talked about, which was had to do with the upgrade question. I mentioned, how do you get some of the people who are already in your program to upgrade? And you said something that I think is incredibly practical, and I don't want to fly over it. You said, reach out to them and say, you've been giving $15 and you've helped a dog eat dinner for a month. I wonder if there's some way to say, okay, you've done this for 3 years and you've helped this. Now, would you consider giving enough to feed 2 dogs for a month? So it's a very impact. Yeah. So how do you recommend having those conversations?
Yeah, again, it's like, yeah, it all, the problem is it all depends on what type of organization you are, right? So if you can quantify it, like you can say, okay, well, you've helped spay, neuter, XYZ, cats in the past year, would you consider, well, hey, you have to kind of like say, well, we have an influx of, more animals this year, because obviously after COVID that happened a lot. So it's like, okay, would you consider, adding, increasing your amount to spay neuter just one more? So typically, again, just like with general fundraising, you want to try to tell the story of like one more, or that would help, like, feed one more child, have lunch, or things like that. So make it a doable something. Again, not like, and I work with a couple of organizations and they like to say, well, we've already spent 5 million on research, and it's like, okay, well, but how is my $5 more going to make a difference, right? So don't talk to me about that, right? Say, but hey, we've got so many patients and we want to just help one more patient, what would that look like, right? So again, stay away from the big numbers. Make it bite size, right? Again, because a donor might say, well, yeah, I'm already giving $15 and I can't go to 20, but I can go to 18,
And monthly giving in itself is bite size. That's the whole purpose. So giving these small incremental growths is great. At my organization, we did like donut parties and pizza parties for students. And so a donut party was $18 and a pizza party was $27. And so if somebody was giving enough for a donut party, I could reach out to them and say, you threw 15 donut parties in the last year. Would you like to throw some pizza parties? So it kind of humanizes this seemingly small gift, but it was a huge deal for my organization. So encouraging the giver that they're making an impact, not a $5 million impact, but an incremental impact, giving lunch to students at school was important. So I love that idea of this incremental growth. And I think that's a very practical way to grow your monthly giving.
Yeah. And again, don't be afraid to schedule it in once a year, like once a year you're doing an upgrade campaign. So just like, it just becomes part of your plan.
Well, okay, so we've covered a lot today, a lot of things that hopefully our listeners can implement. What would be your key advice for these organizations that are still afraid to jump into the monthly giving pool? People who feel like it's too much work, or our givers wouldn't be excited about it, or I don't have a team to help me with this. These people who are a little bit still nervous. What would be your parting wisdom for the people who are still have pause?
Yeah. So, I mean, well, first of all, say, don't pause.
Yeah.
So in other words, don't worry about not having a name or not having a lot of stewardship stuff, so that'll come later. But I mean, you have the tools. You have the online donation forms. You have your donor base, you have your website, you have an email list.
And if you don't, check out Donor Perfect.
Right, exactly. So, but yes, I mean, virtually every organization has some type of tools, and all of them include recurring giving options. Yeah, this is like I said, Donor Perfect started that whole roller coaster, if you will, and everybody's been following since then. But it is important to kind of look at that. And then I say, 1 hour a week, make it every Monday morning from 9 to 10. You're saying, okay, I'm going to focus on my monthly giving program. Take a look. What do I have? Okay, I have an online form and it has recurring on it. And hey, I have so many monthly donors already. And then calculate what the annualized value is, right? So, because sometimes I ask organizations okay, so how many monthly donors do you have? Well, we got 50. Okay. So, well, what are they worth? Okay. And then what's their average gift? And if you get $25 a month, which is industry average right now, right? So $25 a month, and I know Donor Perfect clients is even higher than that. So, but if you look at industry average, and again, it does depend a little bit of if you're an animal organization or a human services organization or arts organization or health, it's all over the map. But $25 a month on average, that's one monthly donor is worth $300 a year. If you got 50 monthly donors, right? That's $15,000 a year, right? Did I calculate that right? So it's that's worth a nice amount of money, right? So so it's no, 50 times 3 is 150,000. So it's even more, right? So it's worth a lot of money. So start with what you have and take 1 hour a week and just chip away at it. Hey, I've got this page. Let me just try a button in an email, see what happens. Let me try another button in an email, right? See what happens. So it's not going to grow overnight. It's not going to be wow, we did a campaign and all of a sudden we got 150 new monthly donors. No, it's going to take time. You literally have to just chip away at it and say 1 hour a week, I'm going to do this for the next year and see what happens. So, I mean, who does not have 1 hour a week?
Well, if anybody doesn't, it's fundraisers. We are very, very busy.
You are, but if you say that's the first thing I do,
yeah, absolutely.
From 9 to 10, I'm done.
And
then
prioritizing it, and I think that the numbers you just shared speak for themselves. The ability to grow giving so much makes this an important priority when fundraisers are so busy, but having a sustainer program in the long term is going to help lighten the load a little bit.
And just remember one thing, monthly giving is really very donor centric. So donors can make a difference in an amount that they're most comfortable with. And especially if you're in the situation we're in right now, where, we still got inflation, we've got a lot of worries going on, it's like there's disasters happening all the time, is building that sustainable revenue is critical, right? And I think the final word is like, just because somebody gives monthly does not mean that they're not going to upgrade, that they're not going to give extra gifts, that they're not going to give to Giving Tuesday, right? They're giving to other things. So, and you can upgrade them to higher levels. I mean, if you look at universities, one prime example was an alum that started giving $5 a month 20 years ago, and then they made $1 million gift. So because they were part of that community, and and you did the stewardship, and but you gave them the opportunity to get started with a small amount. And sometimes donors are like that, right? They're like, well, let me try out this organization and see what happens. And if you treat them right, and you're like saying, thank you so much for your $5, and hey, thank you so much for your $5 a month, we really value you and you're part of this special community. Great. So, and then you upgrade, and then you start asking for an extra gift, and you give them opportunities, maybe for a special capital campaign or something like that. So you send them updates and emails and newsletters. They're your really loyal group of donors that are worth a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. And just remembering that they care, and I think that's a great thing to rely on, is these people love our mission the same way I love our mission, and they're partners with us literally every month, which is so encouraging.
Yeah, and a lot of them leave you in their will. So, like one study I saw was like 6 times more likely, from the UK, 6 times more likely to leave you in their will. So again, they may not be the big givers right now, but they're gonna be committed. They really care about your mission, and they're gonna want to help you even after they're gone. So.
Well, great. This has been so wonderful, Erica. I really hope that people will be able to leave listening to this and feel empowered to love on their monthly donors or to start some new programs. I believe that you have proven how important it is and how valuable it is. So I hope that our listeners are going to be able to enact some things. This is great. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your wisdom. We're really appreciative.
You're welcome. Thanks, Julia.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Nonprofit Expert, presented by Donor Perfect. For more information and a special offer, visit donorperfect.com/podcast.